Earth's ruling elite believe they have discovered the fountain of youth. But before they can attain it, 80% of us must die. A psychopathic technocracy is establishing world government so there can be no escape from their plan.
The New World Order is the old world order. I mean, it's just the names have changed, the appearances have changed.
Most people have no idea. They're not after money. They have all the money they need. They're after power. That's their aphrodisiac.
I was pulled out of a plane in Munich. They interrogated me 4 hours. Some shots were fired.
I need you to move off the property.
Their great dream of exterminating 80% of humanity is at hand. Endgame, blueprint for global enslavement. You have been warned.
Welcome, folks. It is Thursday, the 28th day of July, 2011, and this special live Infowars special report is going into its second hour this evening. And from time to time, I'll be doing these special reports at pacman.pt.vu. But starting September 1st, we'll have a 30-minute news program every evening that's going to be highly produced. This is really just a beta test in here for live special reports that we'll also be doing. And I'm glad on our maiden voyage here, as we work out some of the bugs and things, that we had the health ranger Mike Adams with us in the last hour. And now in the next 45 minutes or so, or as long as he wants to stay, he's been working hard all day. He was already on my radio show for an hour and a half today. We have Sheriff Richard Mack, and most folks, of course, know who he is, but he was the guy that shot down the Brady bill as unconstitutional, took it all the way to the Supreme Court and won. And, of course, he's a best-selling author and a great fighter for liberty, what you'd call the proto-Tea Party. You know, the real folks that, were right about everything that's now happened in America and who are true constitutionalists, not fake Republicans or Democrats. And Sheriff Richard Mack is here with us, and his important message is reaching out to the police, reaching out to military, and reminding them of their oath. Because, hey, if you don't follow the Bill of Rights and Constitution, you might as well be like the corrupt police in Guatemala or North Korea or China or what we've seen in Russia or Eastern Germany. The examples are replete. And before I get into Operation Fast and Furious and Court Site and all the things that are going on and try to sit here and shut up, because everything's going to say is going to make 1,000 things explode in my mind, but that's why folks watch. I don't need a teleprompter. I need to be hit on the head with a hammer to shut up. Before we get there, I want to get to, well, first, thank you for being here, Sheriff.
Oh, okay, Alex. Thanks for having me.
And welcome to Texas.
Hey.
It's like the gathering here.
Been here 2 months, and already I'm an Alamo Texan.
Well, we're going to talk about what that means in a moment. But before we go there, I wanted to raise this issue in my little police state stack here. I saw an article today that says Chinese riot after killing a fruit vendor. This is the Financial Times of London. Mm-hmm. And this disabled 52-year-old Ding Quago died when the code enforcer police beat him to death in front of everyone for no reason. And in China, every day now, they have giant riots when the police act like Chinese communist thugs. Mm-hmm. The Chinese riot and attack police stations, in many cases, kill everybody inside now. They weren't doing this 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. They don't have big Tiananmen squares down in the square. They just go crazy. Then I saw a new video that I'm not even going to air here. It's too horrible. The Daily Mail reported out of California. Caught on tape. Police beat and taser gentle, mentally ill homeless man to death. And they've got video of it, and they reported he was very gentle, very nice, but schizophrenic. And there'd been they thought somebody messing with cars. Turned out it wasn't him. Yeah. But when they came over and tackled him, they tasered him 6 times and beat him to death. And if you look at the photo of him, it took him a couple days to die. I mean, he looked like he was run over by a Mack truck. No pun intended. And again, my job is not just to sit here and bash cops. They make mistakes. They got a tough job. But the difference is that why would Chinese riot and take over a whole city of 30,000 and take over the police station over seeing somebody beaten to death? And here in America, we lie down and take it and see it as almost pro-police,
right,
that we see so many crazy examples of them beating people up that are videotaping them.
Right.
What's happening? What's the difference between a peace officer and a guardian of the republic and these enforcers? And what's your comment on this latest story?
Well, I think it's simply a result and an indication of the training that we receive in this country now at the police academies and within the police departments themselves and the sheriff's offices. It's a them against us mentality, and the police are trained. Safety tactics. You go home tonight. The most important thing after your 8-hour or 10-hour shift, you go home, and you make sure that you're on guard, that your gun belt is ready, the strap off your gun is undone, and you're ready to go. Make sure you're able to defend yourself, and it's just overdone, Alex. It's just way overdone. And just like the SWAT team mentality altogether, it's overdone. I mean, we actually have the Department of Education that calls in a SWAT team to go after a family and goes in and raids a family with a SWAT team in Stockton, California.
Outside of their jurisdiction.
Outside of their jurisdiction.
No warrant.
Yeah, and when they do that, my thing is, my message to everyone in this country is that there is a solution to this police state SWAT team mentality that's going on in our country. And it is, 1, return to the basic fundamentals of our Constitution. You cannot have, I read a book, and I can't remember who it was. It was on community policing, which is supposed to be an oxymoron because that's what we're doing anyway. But the problem with it is, he said, the problem with policing in America is we're being patrolled and policed by strangers. Now you take that to the next level. These guys aren't strangers anymore. They're police state officers. And that is the mentality that is going on in this country. And my warning is to every sheriff and chief of police and peace officer. You have to know the difference between a peace officer and an officer of the state. And when we return to those basic fundamental principles that sheriffs were established for in the first place, to be the peacekeeper, then we will return to freedom. And that the most important thing that your sheriff can do is to protect you from the tyrant. And he actually interposes himself on behalf of the people. And so we can stop this. For instance, the Stockton, California raid. The lady who was the suspect, who wasn't, what crime did she commit? She didn't pay back her student loan.
And we don't have debtor prisons in this country. That's a civil matter.
I know, it's a civil matter. I keep saying that to people. Why don't they listen? But
it's a power grab.
They go in, and she's not even there. So obviously they haven't done their homework. She hasn't been there for a long time. Hasn't even lived there. And so her husband gets raided. And he gets handcuffed and thrown out in the heat and sits in a patrol car for 6 hours. They kick in the door. They don't even offer to fix that. They tape it. They tape over where they kicked it in. And they said everything's fine. That guy should be suing for all sorts of money.
Well, it's a message.
But
pay this money even though we're in a depression. It was Thomas Jefferson said that when the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny.
No, that's what we have today. You have what you have today. You know, you don't even need to say tyranny, you know, but the thing of it is, if we're going to stop that Stockton, California raid, the sheriff should have gone to them right then, that day, and said, I didn't know you guys were coming in here, and if you ever come into my county and pull that crap again, you're going to go to jail, and I'll be the one doing it.
Well, there's a good thing, Sheriff Mack, that you're out there with your book educating the sheriffs about their proper role as, you know, the head constitutional officer in a county under state law and educating the public, because you're on one end trying to restore the republic. The establishment, as you know, and I want you to talk about this, all over the country is moving to get rid of sheriffs being elected. We're going to get to that. But also we see these power grabs. Just 10 years ago, not even 20, it was well known that feds had to get permission, the FBI, to come into a county or a city. But now they've built these law enforcement centers. The feds come in with money. They build the threat fusion centers, and the feds are the boss there with the police chief and the detectives, and they all go to lunch together, and now they're just auxiliary federal officers. In many cases, they're deputized, They've deputized sheriff's deputies under the ATF grant in the schools, asking what kind of guns do mommy and daddy have. I mean, this is a scientific takeover. So can you speak to the program to get rid of the sheriff as an elected position, to cut the people off from that and really complete our journey into corruption and despotism? Because as you know, as yourself has said, as Stuart Rhodes has said, Jack McClam, so many others, Sheriff Mack, that tyranny will come to your door in a uniform.
It will. And all of the horrible incidents that have happened in our country in the last 20, 30, 40 years, Ruby Ridge, Kent State massacres, Waco, and they go on and on. And we can even go back in every one of my presentations.
The Waco sheriff said he wished he would have done his duty.
Exactly, yeah. You can even go back, I like to use the analogy of Rosa Parks. You see, Rosa Parks got arrested, an American citizen arrested because she didn't give her seat to a white man. And now she's been honored in the year 2000. She was honored by Congress. Do they know why she was honored? She broke the law, and she stood against stupid laws, and that's exactly what we should all be doing. Now, she went to jail that day from two people wearing a badge who swore an oath in God's name to uphold and defend the Constitution. Well, I want every sheriff, and that's what I ask in this book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. I ask every sheriff, will you stand against that kind of abuse? You see, there was no heroes at Ruby Ridge. There was no heroes at Waco. There were no heroes at Kent State. There were no heroes at the Rosa Parks bus problem. She was hauled off to jail. Ask every sheriff in this country, ask every peace officer in this country, if you were called back into time, or through time, to that bus on December 1st, 1955, and you as a peace officer, or you as a sheriff or a deputy sheriff, were called to take care of that incident, knowing what we know now about freedom and fairness and equality and our constitutional republic, if you were to get on that bus, what would you do? Are you going to arrest her? I've had actually a few cops tell me they would, because all the laws have to be enforced. That's the mentality I'm fighting. That's the thing my books are fighting, and that's the thing I've stood against for since I've been in law enforcement.
Well, I mean,
20 years.
Exactly. I mean, as the founders stated, and as the Constitution states, and as the juries and grand juries are set up, juries and grand juries aren't supposed to be kept creatures of the prosecutor or
even creatures of the judge.
And creatures of the judge. They're supposed to judge the law as well as the facts. That's another check and balance of the people. If the corrupt system's doing something wrong, or they don't think the law is right, that is the check. It's not just the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. And the sheriff is another elected person who's the guardian.
And state sovereignty is the other branch. In fact, the Supreme Court decision, now this is the Supreme Court decision. This is how small it is. You have a pocket constitution that you can keep this with. Everybody carries a pocket constitution. The other most valuable tool you should have the victory for state sovereignty. This proves what you're saying, that there's the legislative branch, there's the executive branch, and there's the judicial branch. And then Scalia actually says that state sovereignty is the other check and balance that should be applied and should be used in this country. And that's why it's so important that you put the sheriff with the principle of state sovereignty, and he will then know and understand his duty, his responsibility to stand against the tyranny of the federal government.
Well, I want to go back to these military men and
let's go back to your other question.
Because we heard a police officer. Well, sure, go ahead.
What has happened to the sheriffs?
Yes.
What is the move nationwide? Well, first, two of the mistakes that the most recent states coming into the Union made was Hawaii and Alaska. They did not establish sheriffs in those two states. There's none. There's no sheriffs. Then, another huge mistake about 10 years ago, the state of Connecticut actually voted away all the sheriffs. And I think there was only about 9 sheriffs in the state of Connecticut. They voted them out, just got rid of them. Why would you want to do that? Why would the state? And do you know who went out there and campaigned and lobbied and testified before the Connecticut legislature to stop that idiocy? Our own Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Arpaio from Phoenix. He went out there to tell them the biggest mistake you can make is get rid of your sheriff. The second mistake you can make is to appoint your sheriff. The sheriff should remain accountable to the voters.
Well, that's what's crazy is we have cities that are just incorporated under state law. The county is above it in the chain in state government.
It stays out of the corporation.
Well, that's